In this final segment for week 3, we're going to be talking about the excretory and storage systems and touch a little bit on the controversy concerning alcohol. So the main function or the main role of the excretory system is just like it sounds. So its job is to excrete waste or eliminate waste from our body. You can see the major organs involved in the excretory system. So the lungs we often tend to forget about as part of this system, but they really do play an important role because they're involved with the elimination of carbon dioxide. So think back to how the excretory system and the cardiovascular system may work together because the cardiovascular system, the blood is picking up waste, the carbon dioxide from other cells and bringing it back to the lungs, and then the lungs are going to excrete that waste through carbon dioxide or the carbon dioxide waste. The liver, kidneys, and bladder are also the main players in the excretory system. So the liver processes waste and then pulls the waste out of the bloodstream, and then it will send these waste to the colon or the large intestine where it will be stored as feces to eventually be eliminated through the rectum and the anus, or it will be stored or sent to the kidneys where it will be disposed in the urine. So it will go through the bladder, which is our organ that is holding urine. The kidneys, their main function is to filter the blood, but they're also involved in the removal of waste and water, and then they adjust the blood composition. So how does the excretory system and nutrition relate? Many of these things that I have up here, actually most of them, are going to have the biggest relationship with the health of the kidney. So thinking about sodium and blood pressure and kidney health. So because kidneys are involved with the removal of waste and getting rid, keeping our electrolyte balance in the body, sodium is a major nutrient that can have a major impact on the health of the kidney. Potassium is another role. We'll talk more about potassium and sodium and the balance of those two later in the semester when we talk about minerals and other nutrients. Calcium and phosphorus, these could be involved with the calcification of the arteries and veins, and this can impact blood flow and other transportation. You may have heard, excess protein intake could have a negative impact on kidney health or kidney function. So this is somewhat controversial, but there is some evidence out there to bring this idea about. Hydration status, we talked about how kidneys are involved with removing water from the body, so important and adequate hydration is important, just like it's also important for the cardiovascular system. And then kidney stones. So not being hydrated, certain components in foods may make some people more likely to form kidney stones. So these are some things to think about if the excretory system is your system. Also, for people that, maybe have kidney disease or are in renal failure, think about how nutrition may play a big role in the health of their kidneys as well, because they may have totally different dietary recommendations and concerns versus a person that has full kidney function. So just some things to think about if you're focusing on the excretory system this week. All right, moving on to the storage system. So the body is designed to eat every 4 to 6 hours, but the cells in our body really require a constant supply of energy. So because we can't physically eat, every second of every minute of every hour of every day, we store energy in our bodies. So the major storage sites in the body are liver, muscle, and adipose tissue. So both the liver and muscle are going to be our carbohydrate storage sites, and carbohydrate is going to be stored as glycogen. Next week, we're going to talk all about carbohydrates, so we'll get more into carbohydrate storage, what glycogen is. You might have heard the term glucose. So what do all those mean, and how do they relate to carbohydrates? And then adipose tissue is going to be where we store our fat or fat-related components. What happens when we consume excess food or excess nutrients? Well, excess nutrients are going to be converted to glycogen or fat. So notice nothing extra is being converted to protein. So just something to keep in mind as we talk about carbohydrates, protein, and fat in the next several weeks. So the role of liver glycogen is sustain cell activities between feeding. So, we're, again, only eating every 4 to 6 hours. So between those 4 to 6 hours, when we're not eating anything, the body, remember, the cells still require energy. So they're going to get that energy from glycogen that's coming from the liver. Muscle cells make and store their own glycogen, and this is going to be used during times of exercise. We don't want to have to rely on the glycogen in our muscle cells for all regular use. So we really want to rely on liver glycogen for that. And then fat is going to be used for energy, and then anything excess will be stored in adipose tissue as well. Nutrient stores ensure that our body will always have energy even in times of low food intake. So maybe when we're between our feeding times, or maybe when we're actually hungry and we haven't eaten for several days, or maybe it is just between meals. So there really are a lot of variations in nutrient stores. So some nutrients are stored quite readily and quite easily in the body, where others are not stored at all, or they're stored in very small amounts. So fat is basically unlimited storage. So like we said up here, the excess nutrients are going to be converted to glycogen or fat. So we basically have unlimited storage for fat in particular, which can be somewhat detrimental because we don't want to have excess fat intake, because that can lead to excess weight gain. Things like water-soluble vitamins, like all of the B vitamins and vitamin C, they're water-soluble, which means they're not stored in the body. So these won't have a storage component. Protein, like I mentioned before, excess nutrients will not be converted to protein because protein is not stored long-term in the body either. Then think of other places where calcium might be stored, or nutrients might be stored in the body. For example, calcium would be stored in bones. Iron is going to be found in our red blood cells. So there are some other storage places for certain nutrients, but think about the size of those things. We can't store a lot of excess. So this is why proper nutrition, adequate intake consistently is very important for human health. So as far as storage systems go and their relationship with nutrition, the macronutrients are very important. Remember, excess nutrients are going to be stored, in particular, fat and carbohydrate are going to be stored as fat. So excess fat intake, we're going to have increased storage of fat, and then this can lead to increased body fat percentage as well as increased weight. So we have our obesity epidemic, any sort of excess body weight. And then thinking about how protein isn't stored. So for someone that is consuming a lot of extra protein, which you'll learn more about that in a couple weeks as well, with your dietary analysis project and your protein needs, if you consume over your protein needs, what happens to that? It's just being excreted from your body, so it's basically being wasted. So there's no point of over consuming protein. So some things to think about. There are other, specific nutrients that you can take a look at for storage systems as well, but these are some of the key players here. So to summarize everything about the body systems we've talked about, these are not the only body systems. Again, think about all of your cells that are then grouped into the tissues, that are then grouped into the organs, which are grouped into the body systems. We only touched on those that, only a few. There's still, all of your bones, the muscular system, the reproductive system. There are many other systems in the body. And all of these systems require nutrients and energy. So it's very important that you recognize how proper nutrition and your conscious food choices really do play a role in not only the overall health of your body, but the overall health of each of these systems. When there's inadequate energy, the body is going to shut down systems that are basically non-essential. So the reproductive system is not essential. So if you don't have adequate energy over a long period of time, that system will be shut down. So this is why constant energy intake, or our feedings every 4 to 6 hours, and then good nutrition choices, solid energy choices are very important for our overall health. All right, so this last slide, we're just going to talk a little bit about the controversy mentioned in chapter 3 about alcohol. So I'm only touching on one slide about alcohol and nutrition, but there are the controversy is really great, so I would encourage you to check that out. Something might show up on an exam or an activity. So I would definitely check the controversy out. So excess alcohol intake in particular can cause some disturbances in nutrition. So alcohol still has calories. People often forget that alcohol has calories, but these are very empty calories, so they're not providing any nutrition, but they are providing calories, and they still count as part of your overall calorie intake. So alcohol provides 7 calories per gram. So think back to what our macronutrients are providing. So carbohydrates and protein each provided 4 calories per gram, and fat provided 9. So alcohol provides just in the middle. And remember that alcohol is not considered a nutrient because it is not essential. So alcohol can cause reduced appetite. So you may not be aware that you're actually hungry, but you're still consuming a lot of alcohol, which is still a lot of calories. So you may be consuming plenty of calories, but you're not getting all of the nutrients that you need. Because of this can lead to increased weight gain over time because you're still consuming calories through the liquid calories in your alcohol. There also can be some effects on vitamins, so overall malnutrition. So we're, again, replacing food with alcohol. So we're not consuming any food that has those beneficial nutrients, vitamins, things that we need, but we're still getting plenty of calories. So this can also decrease nutrient absorption and have a major effect in promoting some nutrient deficiencies as well. So Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome is actually related to a thiamine deficiency. So this is caused by inadequate food intake plus the impaired nutrient absorption due to alcohol abuse. So this usually will present itself in someone that is really abusing alcohol. So if you have, a drink or two a week, you're probably not going to have thiamine deficiency, but someone that abuses alcohol may present with this syndrome. Folate deficiency can also result from alcohol abuse, and then this can affect red blood cell formation and eventually energy levels of an individual. So basically, alcohol is really going to disrupt nutrient metabolism if it's abused. So the key with alcohol consumption is that moderation is key. So there may be some health benefits, but the benefits are not great enough so that if you don't currently drink, the benefits are not going to, are not more so that if you start drinking, it's more beneficial for you. So if you don't drink, it's not worth it to start drinking to get the benefits. But if you already drink, there may be some health benefits. But moderation is key. So make sure to check out that controversy, what a drink actually is. So it differs whether you're drinking beer, a hard liquor, or wine. So very interesting controversy. So I hope you've learned something this week about your body systems and how nutrition plays a role, and I'll look forward to talking with you next week.